environment and to understand what is operating. Also, if the highest value is in the relationship, we work constantly throughout the day to establish the relationship. How do we do it? Good morning, hello, how are you? I came up here, I got a big hug. Okay? We are constantly working to maintain the relationship. Now, if you're working in an office and you walk by somebody's office, the door is open, what do you say? Hi. Come back by, what do you say? Hi. Go back by again, what do you say? Hi. By the time you walk by and don't say anything, what does the other person say? What's wrong with you? You stuck up, you got an attitude or something? Because we have to constantly reinforce the relationship. Now, how many times have you walked down the hall, break your face to somebody white and say, hello, and they walk right on by you? And you get mad. Oh! You see? Now, why? Because as far as they're concerned, no, it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't exist. It means that they're focusing on the object. You see, if I get on the elevator and I get off the elevator, my boss has told me, I want that report now. My focus is on the what? Which is the object. And I'm preoccupied with the object and I don't have time to establish any kind of what? Yes, I'm not concerned about that. Or I might have said good morning to you when I first came in at 8 o'clock. So don't expect me to say anything else, good morning or hello or anything else from that point on, because I did that already. Okay? And you have to be very clear about those things because you'll be very uptight at work. And you won't know why your jaw is so tight. Because you're breaking your face and smiling and people just walk right by just like they don't see you. And you ask, well, am I invisible? Can't you see me? They say, well, I spoke to you this morning. No. These are things we have to be cognizant of. Now, it's very important that we also understand when people are asking, why can't we as blacks have greater unity? Well, if the highest value is in the relationship, you can't relate to a group. You relate to the individual. So in order to make black groups function, we have to relate on a one-on-one basis to each person individually. Okay? And the person who is the leader for a black group is charismatic. Now, what does that mean? It says that when I speak to the audience, each of you hears me speaking directly to you alone. Take one of the old recordings of Malcolm X and play it. Is he talking to people out there or over there? To whom is he speaking? He's speaking directly to me. Even though he's been dead all these years, he is still a charismatic speaker because he is addressing me. The best pastors and ministers in churches, the best of the black leaders speak, and people know that he's speaking directly to whom? Yes, to you the person, individually. Now that's how you get persons, and that's why when we get a person like that, they kill him off. Because they're too powerful. That's why charismatic leaders are killed. The reason you have to relate to each other is because our value system says that. Now let's look at a very powerful pastor in a church. He's got all these sisters out here. He doesn't say, I want all the women to work hard together. So I say, they ain't talking to me. Okay? But he says, Sister Mary, I want you to work on the altar committee, and Sister Jones, I want you to work on the food committee. And he assigns them, then they feel very important because it has been a what? One-on-one relationship. So if you want black organizations to function, then the people who come together and say, we want an organization, have to be treated on an individual basis, constantly reinforcing that there is a relationship. And the moment people feel that there is no relationship, they feel that they're being what? Yes. And you've lost your organization. It's very difficult, it's very time-consuming, but it is not impossible. It takes work to make a black organization work. Okay? Because you have constantly got to maintain the what? The relationship. Okay? It has to be done that way. That's the only way it works. Otherwise it won't work. You cannot say, let me show you the differences between the two groups. Now, suppose you're going to have a meeting. If the highest value is in the object in the European set, then a meeting would be called by sending you a brochure. How many of you attend meetings based on a brochure? You may not even open the letter. The only way we would get you to come out to a meeting is in what kind of way? Somebody get on the what? On the phone. See? See, you have to establish that one-to-one relationship. I want you to come out and hear the philosophical aspects of cultural difference. What are you talking about, the philosophical what? I want you to come out. I don't want to be there by myself. Well, okay. Okay? It has to be one-on-one. That's how we do it. Now, to try to make ourselves into someone else or something else is not going to work. That's the way we are. That's the way that we have to devise methods to be successful in what is ours. So if you're in an organization, don't spend your money on postage, spend it on telephone. Okay? Go visit, sit down and talk to people. People say the children are so bad in school we can't do anything with them. I sent a letter. See, when I was coming along, the teacher would go visit. She wouldn't go into your house talking about how bad you were and telling a woman who's worked all day what a bad child she's got. She would just say, "Hello, Mrs. Nichols, how are you? I'm so glad I'm Edwin's new teacher, and I want to be sure that we understand that you want the same things for Edwin that I want for Edwin. And I'm very happy that he's in my class, and I'm sure he's going to be a wonderful student this year." She hasn't said one thing about how bad I was in class and how evil I was and what have you. She just said how interested she is in me and wants to know if my mother's as interested. My mother said, "Yes, I am." Now the next day when I get in school, I get ready to cut up, she says, "Do you want me to call Lena?" Because she's already established what with my mother? That's right. And if I get out of line, you know I'm in serious trouble. Okay? So this is the way historically we have done it, and this is what is necessary to do if we're going to have organization today. That's black organizational structure. Now let's see what happens when we deal with a culture that says the highest value is in the cohesiveness of the group. It's the Asian culture. When you are trying to ascertain how other people see themselves, we don't always have all the tools to do that. For an example, if I look up in the dictionary the word group, whose name is on the cover? Webster. How many trips did Webster make to Asia? He didn't get there, so he may not know how they see the word group themselves. So what I'm going to do is share with you a way of doing it. I guess it's already on. I take the word group and I write it in Chinese. This is the Chinese word for group. This word by itself is king, and this one is sheep. So in order to be a group, you have a leader and what? Followers. You see what I'm saying? Now the language is much more sophisticated than that. So let's take a look and see what it means at a different level of sophistication. In monarchy, there is hierarchy. The king is higher than the queen, who's higher than the duke, who's higher than the duchess. And we see sheep as stupid, dumb animals. They see sheep as conformist animals. So the essence of groupness is to be a conformist within the hierarchy. How many of you dealt with total quality management on your job? Okay. Then Deming says we must be conformists in the hierarchy in order to maintain group cohesiveness. Now, how do people make decisions that will keep a group cohesive? Well, who's the tallest man in here? Who's taller than 6'3"? Raise your hand. All right, stand up. Anyone taller than this man? All right, stand up. Okay, how tall are you? Yeah, 6'7". All right, this is the biggest man. He says, "What's your name?" "Michael." Michael says, "We are going north for water. Whom among you will argue?" But Michael, if we get up north and there's no water, how long would you be in charge? Not very long. Thank you very much. Unilateral decisions do not keep groups cohesive. Now let's see what we learned from the Greeks. Majority rule. All those in favor of going north for water, please be so kind as to raise your hands. Or we're going to have a group over here going north and a group over here wanting to go what? South. And the groups will start what? Splitting. And we'll never be what? Cohesive. So we have to ask ourselves, in Asian culture, what do they do in the decision-making process to keep their group cohesive? They have to come to a what? Consensus. Now, how do you write consensus in Chinese? Now, it's dyslexic, because I'm dyslexic in English, but dyslexia transfers, okay? But I'm going to give it to you anyway. If you look at this as a single word right here, that's the Chinese word right there for heart. Okay, heart. Now, if you look at the next word above it, up here, it's voice. So in order to come to a consensus, your heart and your voice have to say what? How many times have you said something with your voice that you didn't mean with your heart? Okay. That's called passive-aggressive behavior. It's listed in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, Roman numeral 4, for mental illness. Okay. Now, when your voice and your heart say the same thing, you have a new Chinese word, which is intent. So if I know how you think and feel, if I know your affect and your intellect, I know your what? If we all have the same intent to work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day at the corner grocery store, does anyone have to be awakened to get to work on time? And that's your Korean experience, isn't it? You see? Because they have said with their what? And their what? And everyone knows they have the same what? Yes. Now we're ready for the last part of the calligraphy. And now, this is the Chinese word for come together and speak with one. That's how they write one, mouth. And that's a consensus. Now that's how they do it. And it's very easy once you've been in the decision-making process to be a conformist in the hierarchy and keep the group cohesive. Does that make sense? Say amen. Amen. Now what I'm sharing with you is, it is not that others are better and good and all these things and we are bad, it's that we are all different. And we have to find out what works for us and work it, rather than to always criticize ourselves because we are not Korean or we're not white. Black people have very successful organizations, but you have to understand how to work it and what the dynamics are. Okay? All right. Let's look to see what the experience was with a Native American, because I think that's very important. You have to understand what happened to them can happen to other people. Their value system said oneness, highest value lies in oneness with the Great Spirit. In traditional metaphysics for Indian culture, Native American culture, they think of 7 essences for the world. Those things that travel on 2, those that travel on 4, those that travel with wings and feathers, flippers and fins, under the earth, on the earth, above the earth. So those 7 things constitute the way the world is for the Native American. So if you see them doing a hoop dance, they dance with how many hoops? Or multiples, 7, 14, 21. The idea is that all of them will come together into a single hoop. And here's the single hoop, the Great Spirit. Now, because they believe that they have oneness with the Great Spirit, you see at this level there's nothing connecting them. But if if we have oneness with the Great Spirit, then here I am, here is the Great Spirit. All of us have our oneness in the what? Now, if you have oneness way up here in the Great Spirit, would you ever do anything down here to hurt, harm, destroy, or damage? Doesn't make sense, does it? So their highest value is in a totally ecologically balanced system, total ecological balance. That's how they are happiest, that's how they survive, that's their belief system. That's why they had the Great Plains and all the other things, because they had to be in total ecological balance. Now, if your axiology says that the highest value is member to the Great Spirit, and you come in contact with people who have a different axiology, member to the object, well, both of you are trying to provide for your families. This individual, the Native American, says it takes me 2 buffalo to survive the winter. The meat and the hides from 2 buffalo, maximum 3, will take care of my family for the whole winter. But this man does not see the buffalo as his survival. He sees only the buffalo's what? Its hide. So we see that white people think about what all the time? Yes. So when they look at a woman, they look at what? Yes, and start talking about her what? Yes. You see? Or her hair. I had a black woman tell me, Ed, ain't nobody ever asked me for a piece of hair. Okay.